All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. This is an educational channel where we look at all kinds of different educational materials. I just put up a workout video, time trial on the bike, and that's primarily for coaches and other people that want to be coached up um, to a higher level of fitness. I can help you out with training and diet. Um, but mostly on this channel, we look at, more sit down and read it kind of educational material. And today is video number 261 of covering the reciprocal system of theory, which is a theory of everything that was posited by Dewey B. Larson, starting way back in about 1959, as a result of almost 3 decades of inductive work on refining the reciprocal system, and then 3 more decades after that of writing books and articles, and through a deductive process of if this then that. And he died back in 1990. The basic idea behind the reciprocal system is that the universe is made out of motion. It's not matter, not energy, but motion. Matter and energy are 2 different varieties of motion, in fact, as well as all the other scientific quantities that you know of. And for Larson, motion was the relationship between space and time. Basically, motion is a fraction with time or space as the numerator and space or time as the denominator. And that sets up a generalized reciprocal relationship between space and time. Hence the name, the reciprocal system. Now, a reciprocal system is a system with 1 at the center, not 0. Not an additive system with 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on one side and minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the other side, but a system with 1 in the center and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on one side and 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, 1/6 on the other side. And so the infinities in that system are positive infinity and 0. Okay, now this relationship between space and time has a few caveats that he covers in his first postulate. One is that space and time have their coordinate aspects, meaning that they have 3 or more dimensions. So that's kind of a foreign concept with time. We're not accustomed to 3-dimensional time. But that is what occurs in certain scenarios. And then space and time also have their clock aspects, meaning that they are progressing in a scalar manner, just like time, clock, time. Time is always getting later and later and later. But there is no real specific direction that it is getting later. And so too with space. Even though that's kind of a foreign concept, but space is getting farther and farther and farther apart, which was actually observed by the Hubble telescope, in that they observed all of the distant galaxies are moving away from each other. That's what Larson calls the progression of space, the flow of space. Space is always getting farther and farther and farther apart, in the same way that time is always getting later and later and later. And then time and space both also have their discrete unit aspect. They come in only discrete units. There is a minimum unit of time and a minimum unit of space, below which you do not have time or space. If you don't have time or space, then you only have space or time, because it's one or the other. You either have space or you have time, or both. And so space and time are the contents of the universe, not the container of the universe. We generally think of, especially of space, as being some kind of empty container where like a stage where the action of the universe takes place. But in Larson's formulation, space and time are actually the contents of the universe. Everything is made out of space and time, which is motion. All right, so now if we have this discrete units of space and time, if we have 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time, we have the speed of light. The speed of light is what Larson calls unit speed, 1/1. And this 1, as we noted earlier, is the center point. 1 is the center. And then, so there is half the universe that is moving slower than the speed of light, and half the universe that is moving faster than the speed of light. Larson calls the former the material universe, and the material sector of the universe, and the latter is called the cosmic sector of the universe. And so generally the legacy scientists only know about this material sector. Einstein said that the speed of light is the maximum speed of the universe. Larson is showing that the speed of light is the midpoint of the universe. And there is an entire half of the universe moving faster than the speed of light. Now, we don't know virtually nothing about the cosmic sector, but we can ascertain things by extrapolating, because of the reciprocal relationship between space and time. And what we know about the material sector can be extrapolated into the cosmic sector merely by reversing the roles of space and time. So in the material sector, we have 3-dimensional space and clock time. In the cosmic sector, we have 3-dimensional time and clock space. Okay, and then Larson took that initial postulate and another one that just says that the universe conforms to the relationships of ordinary commutative mathematics. Its magnitudes are absolute and its geometry is Euclidean. He took those 2 postulates and went through an if-then process to derive an entire theoretical universe, what the universe would look like if those 2 postulates were correct. And he wrote books on chemistry and physics and astrophysics and astronomy, and even economics and metaphysics in his career before passing away. And I recommend those books. A couple of them have I've read on this channel already. But today we're actually looking at one of Larson's followers, one of his revisers. After he died, Dr. Bruce Perret came to the fore, and while mostly affirming Larson's theories, made a few choice tweaks to the theory to continue moving it forward, and then also moved it into other fields, other areas, more into philosophy, into crypto, archaeoastronomy, and geochronology, and we're looking at his stuff on anthropology right now, the hidden origins of Homo sapiens. And this is the 4th of his 4 articles that he wrote under the pen name Daniel Phoenix 3. And we are in the middle of this article, and he's talking about a lot of his revisions of not only Larson's astronomy theory, but all of legacy astronomy as well. Basically, his idea is that this universe is at a much smaller scale than we think it is. The all the stars and galaxies that we see out there, that we say are light years or thousands or millions or even billions of light years away, are in reality much closer, and that our whole scope is really only about 3,500 light years, and there's nothing beyond that we can detect. That's the limit of our range, and that a lot of the galaxies that we see out there are actually not galaxies, but they are solar systems. They are suns with planets rotating around them, not not galactic cores with stars rotating around them. So he's really just scaling down everything. He also does the same thing with geochronology, with the dating of the Earth. And instead of saying that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, he says that it's something more like 20 million years old, tops. And that history, you know, like the dinosaurs were here just a matter of, you know, thousands of years ago, not 65 million years ago. Okay, we're going to start up right here. One also has to wonder why some of the more open-minded astronomers have not noticed that there is something wrong with the data concerning quasars, pulsars, galactic motion, and long-period comets, since the values must appear a bit ridiculous. Larson noticed the quasar redshift problem some 50 years ago from published redshift data. When checking up on his redshift sources, I found that the high priests of astronomy have changed the data to fit their theories. All the early redshift data of assumed to be remote objects had many of them receding at several times the speed of light. Larson documents recession velocities of up to 6 times the speed of light, impossible in Einstein's universe. This has now all been adjusted to hide that evidence. So I looked around for other anomalies that may have been published by deep sky researchers, particularly those involved with measuring galaxies and long-period comets that may well cross between gravitationally bound solar systems. Ran into a problem, however, and his list of the problem is about 12 items here. Mark Aronson, researcher into age and size of universe, killed by revolving dome of telescope. Carol Armbruster, stellar researcher, murdered. David Burstein, expanding universe researcher, dead from Pick's disease. Richard Crow, co-founder of Helo's astronomy program, killed in car accidents. Thomas Gold, researcher into beginnings of life on Earth, dead from heart failure. Robert Harrington, Planet X researcher, dead from cancer. John Huchra, published papers on a different birth of galaxies, dead from heart attack. Brian Marston, comet and asteroid tracker, dead from cancer. Koichiro Morita, ALMA researcher, murdered. Stephen Rawlings, assisting to construct the square kilometer array, murdered. Alan Sandage, attempting to measure the rate of expansion of the universe, dead from cancer. Eugene Shoemaker, cometary researcher, killed in car crash. Walter Steiger, site manager of the sub-millimeter observatory, killed in car crash. Let's just say it is a somewhat extensive list, and few people realize that looking through a telescope is a very high-risk job. Speculation went around prior to 2012 that these people had stumbled upon Nibiru, Planet X, and were silenced. But since X was a no-show, and the ancient historical records indicate that the Anunnaki arrived on our moon, that would indicate our own moon is the arc Nibiru. I suspect what these late astronomers found was bigger than that. That astronomy, as we are force-fed it, is totally wrong, and we are far from alone. But as long as we feel isolated and cut off from the universe, we are a lot easier to control. Okay, this section is called 4.6 billion years ago, ... I think it was a Tuesday, ... As discussed in geochronology, the geochronology paper, stars and planets are nowhere near as old as astronomers say they are. The calculations of Professor KVK Nehru state, who is another one of the reciprocal system researchers of the first rank, indicates that a star of, say, 1 solar mass would condense into would condense in 13.8 million years. Our sun is 1 solar mass and would therefore be only about 14 million years old, not 4.6 million. Correcting for the backwards stellar evolution puts the sun near the start of its life, not the end, having an estimated lifespan of about 80 million years. When we look at the geologic and anthropologic history of our world, the time scales are correspondingly exaggerated. This exaggeration prevents armchair researchers from noticing the correspondences between things, effectively hiding history in the past. This was the case with the Cro-Magnon man. When the 50,000 BC timeline of their fossil record was updated to about 6,000 BC, all of a sudden, Cro-Magnon man appeared at exactly the same time as the biblical Adam and Eve. I think that's 4,000 BC. But anyway, who were creations of the Anunnaki, explaining why Cro-Magnon seems to have appeared out of nowhere. Geologic history is broken down into super eons, eons, eras, periods, epochs, and ages. The breaks between them are usually indicative of some kind of geological event, such as a solar change or planetary expansion event. The dates are wrong, but the groupings of who and what was there tends to be correct. There are 4 eons defined to section out the 4.6 billion years of history. Let's round up to 15 million for the age of the sun, for some leeway in the correction. They are times in millions of years ago. The Hadean era, conventionally thought of as being 4.5 billion years ago. The event post-supernova primordial state of planetary formation. Sun is basically a ball of debris, so system looks like a nebula. And he says that occurred 15 million years ago as opposed to 4.5 billion years ago. And the next era is called the Archean era, 4 billion years ago. Volcanic, class M, red giant sun, little atmosphere, no oxygen, basic prokaryotic life, 13 million years ago, as opposed to 4 billion. Proterozoic era, 2.5 billion years ago, characterized by crust formation and start of lakes, eukaryotes, generating oxygen, but highly radioactive surface, many expansion events, class K star. And for Perret, that occurred 8 million years ago, as opposed to 2.5 billion years ago. And then the Phanerozoic era, 542 million years ago. Class G sun, habitable surface, arrival of the Cyclopeans. And Perret says that that is 2 million years ago as opposed to 542 million years ago. The first 3 eons are not very significant from the perspective of life. The supernova explosion created an enormous debris field that the newly forming planets from the destruction of the binary companion would be plowing through for some time. Gravity eventually condenses the debris field back into a class M red giant and then continues to compress it into the orange class K sun. Because of the significant quantity of debris, this process moves fairly quickly, and before long, the new orange sun has condensed and cooled sufficiently, putting out about 75% of the energy that it does today, making the surface of the inner planets, namely Venus, Tiamat, and Mars, suitable for life and colonization. But it is the Phanerozoic eon where things get interesting. Okay, we will start up with that tomorrow. The next section is called The Arrival of the Cyclopeans. So that was 2 million years ago, according to Perret. 542 million years ago, according to the legacy scientists. And we'll check that out starting tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.